Hello and welcome to week 4 of the Kickstart program. So today we've got some questions from our weekly coaching topic, which is protein this week. So we'll dive straight in with the first question. First one is, I'm trying my best to keep my protein intake to 30 to 40 grams per meal, but due to lack of appetite, I'm struggling. What would you suggest I could do to help? So we get this a lot as well, actually, and no offense to the person that actually said this because they're not of the older generation, but we actually see this a lot in the older generation as well, where we're feeling full after smaller meals as well. So it's hard to get enough protein in there. So what we could start doing is that when we have our meal, instead of eating all the carbs first or all the fruit or the vegetables, depending on what meal we're having, we actually have the protein first. So if it's a chicken dinner, we eat the chicken. If it's fish, eat that, or steak, or whatever protein you've got, eat that first, and then have the vegetables or the fruit, depending if it's breakfast or not, and then the carbs afterwards. So it might be that we're getting too full up on the carbs and the fiber, that we're then not hungry for the protein. So we could have protein first, followed by the veggies and then carbs, and even maybe reduce the carb portion. Or we could then break up our meals into smaller meals so that instead of having 3 big meals throughout the day, we're having maybe 4 or 5 smaller ones. So if for breakfast you are just having a yogurt, that's fine. Maybe a couple of nuts on there just to add a few healthy fats and a few more vitamins and minerals. And then if it's a mid-morning snack, maybe a protein shake and a banana. Lunchtime, chicken, a little bit of salad. And you get the idea of we're having smaller meals, still with high amounts of protein, so we're not getting as full. Another idea is to then have something as simple as toast as well, and then a protein shake afterwards. So it's still a small meal like toast, but then you're having the protein shake, and then you can snack on fruit or get vegetables in other meals and other areas of the day. So yeah, looking at eating the protein first, or swapping how many meals we're having and the portion sizes, or even changing the foods that we pair up so that we can total a certain amount of protein, like the toast and the protein shake, rather than trying to get it all from one type of food. Question number 2 is, you said about having protein 3 to 4 times a day, but I'm intermittent fasting to reduce my calorie intake. I'm only having 2 meals a day, so how can I make sure I'm getting enough protein? Which is a very common question, actually, because with creating calorie deficit, a lot of people do find that skipping breakfast is an easier way to create that calorie deficit and stick to it. So 2 options here. We could increase the amount of protein that we have in each meal if our appetite allows us to do so. So instead of aiming for 30 to 40 grams, we could push to the 50 to 60 grams. So we may have said, or you may have heard us say before, that having any more than 50 grams doesn't really do anything extra. You end up not really gaining that much from it compared to having 20 or 30 grams. So that kind of information was useful because we're then spending less money on chicken, protein shakes and all this because it's lasting us twice as long. But there is some new research out there now as well that does say that 50 to 100 grams of protein does still benefit us and can increase muscle synthesis for a lot of hours more after the meal than a meal alone that's at 20 to 40 grams of protein. Well, the research was only at 20 grams of protein. So still, we may think that 40 grams of protein is enough and we don't need to have proper 50 or 100. So yeah, we could aim for a higher dosage in each meal. So a bigger meal at lunch and dinner. So if you had 50 grams in both and you get 100 grams total, that would be good. Or we could then have 3 meals within your intermittent fasting window. So instead of having the 2 that you're already having, have one, say 12 o'clock, one 3 o'clock, one 6 o'clock, and then you're having 3 lots of 40. So then that's equaling 120 instead. I always get nervous when I do maths in case it's wrong. Yeah, so hopefully that will help increase your protein intake from there. But again, if you do have any questions, drop them in the WhatsApp group after this podcast too, just to see what your thoughts are from what I'm obviously saying. Next question is, what other supplements can I use to aid my recovery? Protein is always very high, but I still can't shake shake the aches from training? So yeah, that's a good question, because even though protein's high, which does, we always say aids recovery, we can still be achy as well. So I would personally suggest, and I know Luke would agree as well, that instead of looking into supplements straight away, we'd look at other things in our lifestyle as well. So we'll look at sleep. I think this actually, we cover it in week 6. If we look at sleep and recovery, so what am I trying to say? We're looking at ways that we can improve our sleep so that our recovery, our lifestyle, our appetite, our mood, everything improves there as well. Because we could start having all these different supplements or different methods of improving recovery, but sleep is a huge one for it. So we'll go over that in a couple of weeks as well. I'll send you a sleep guide so that you can get a few head pointers on that one, and then we can go from there. Another thing is training at the right intensity. So we always like to say that, yes, we want to be training at a point where it's hard and to an intensity where we're going to feel the benefit, and we are going to get a benefit, but the next day we should be able to train if we wanted to, but don't have to. So most of us are aiming for training 2 to 3 times a week, so that's fine. But if every time we're training, we're aching for 4 to 5 days, we're probably training at too high of an intensity. So we want to reduce the weights that we're lifting, or reduce how many reps or sets we're lifting for, and even increase our rest time as well. Or the total volume of exercise that we're doing every time we're training. So if you're following the program, it should be okay. But if you're adding in anything extra, then it may be worth reducing it a little bit so we're not too achy from the training. A good little pointer to put out there is that we shouldn't be training to a point of 100% all the time, but we can aim for, say, 75, 80% intensity every time we train, because like everything in life, can't be 100% all the time because we'll burn out. So when it comes to growing muscle, it's, yes, we're working hard, but we don't want to like damage it and do crazy lifts every time we're in the gym. We're also kind of maintaining and growing at the same time. So that's where we can point out that we are aiming to train. We are trying to train for longevity too. So we want to keep this training up. We don't need to be in the gym smashing our bodies apart every time we're in there. We're in this for the long game. So yeah, hopefully that answered that one. Next one is, why am I wanting sweet things on an evening? So a very good question. This actually wasn't in the question box, but something that one of you messaged me throughout the week. I thought it'd be a good thing to share. So we might often feel hungry on an evening if we haven't eaten enough in the day. So this could actually link in as well with intermittent fasting, and that if we're not eating enough in the day, then by the time it comes to the evening, we're ravenous and we want to have loads of food all the time. So what we could actually do here is try having more food earlier on in the day so that we're not feeling as hungry on the evening. So you could have a little bit more protein or a few more vegetables, bit more fruit or carbs earlier on in the day so that we're not as hungry. Or another method is that we could try and change our taste buds. So it sounds a little bit crazy, but there's a book out there. I think it's called What the Gut. I'll send the link in the group. And it looks at how the gut bacteria interact with our brain. So you'll hear me banging on about this quite a lot, because it was something that I thought was all a bit kind of false and a bit what's the word, where people look into stuff a bit too much. It's like, yeah, well, I don't really believe that. I thought it was all kind of hearsay type stuff, but there is research into it, and it is a legit thing that our gut bacteria will be feeding off the food that we have, and it will want more of the foods that we do have. So if we have a lot of blander foods like whole foods, anything that comes naturally from the earth, like fruit, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, all that kind of natural food, then that's what we want to carry on eating and crave. And we won't find that we need things like McDonald's or chocolate or those other things that we want to crave. And the other book, which I learned this one, called The Hungry Brain, really interesting, talks about processed foods and how when we eat foods that are manufactured, these foods that are manufactured are literally made so that our taste buds and everything psychologically and physiologically is ticked in the box so that we eat more of their foods, then we buy more of their food and they make more money. So a lot of processed foods, we have to remember, are a business and they want us to buy more food, and they have literally engineered the foods that we want to have more of them. Sorry if you can hear Mabel snoring in the background. Hopefully she's not too loud. So yeah, processed foods are literally manufactured to make us want and need more. So if you're wanting more processed foods, it could be worth trying to change our taste buds and having more natural food. So we could be snacking on things like carrots and hummus, or celery and peanut butter, or soft cheese with breadsticks. And they're all obviously processed foods like soft cheese, breadsticks, and peanut butter, but they're not highly processed foods. They've just gone through a process. So yeah, so it could be worth looking into what foods we are eating and trying to swap them out for more neutral and natural foods so that we have less cravings. But yeah, it's always an interesting topic to look into. But I'll send those 2 books into the group in case you want to learn more about them as well. Yeah, so I'll wrap that up there for today. Thank you for your good questions as always. And drop any other questions that you have from this into the group or message me privately, and I'll get back to you then. I hope you're all having a good week. Training looks like it's going well. And I'll catch up with you shortly. Thank you for listening.